What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the August 14th, 2021 edition of Talking Smack. Now, while this was the same studio formatted show that we've had for the last month now, I thought this was the best episode of Talking Smack that we've had yet, since the switch over to the new format with Matt Camp and Kevin Patrick in the host role. Not only really because of what they did, it kind of incorporated more energy than usual, which was necessary, so it wasn't the same, John Cena confronted Roman Reigns on Smackdown type of thing. They had more energy. I like Kevin Patrick. I like Matt Camp. Their analysis was the usual pointless stuff, the usual pointless WWE narrative or whatever. But the interviews they did on the show I thought were great. Rick Boogs and Nakamura, we had on the show the new Intercontinental Champion, King Nakamura that is. We had Kevin Owens, who was always a treat on a show like this, and Bianca Belair at the very end. So I thought this was, by recent standards of Talking Smack, a thumbs-up episode. So to start the show, they had the replay of the John Cena and Roman Reigns exchange from the beginning of Smackdown on Friday, which was very good, I thought, overall. And Matt Camp brings up, if Roman Reigns can beat John Cena at SummerSlam, of course, if Cena beats Roman, he becomes a 17-time record-setting, 17-time world champion in WWE. But another thing that was noted here by Matt Camp was that if Roman beats Cena, though, Cena will be the 8th former world champion that Roman Reigns has beaten since becoming Universal Champion a year ago, almost exactly 1 year ago. And he is right, I thought about it in my head, and pretty much almost every opponent that Roman has beaten has been a former world champion, with the exception of Cesaro, the two exceptions of Cesaro and Jey Uso. So the other people he has beaten include, to make John Cena number 8, Rey Mysterio would be 1, Bray Wyatt 2, Braun Strowman 3, Kevin Owens 4, Daniel Bryan 5, Edge 6, and then 7 would be Braun, Bray, not Drew. Drew was WWE champion. It was Bray, Braun, Owens, Edge, Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio, and I said Edge already. Maybe they included Drew McIntyre. I thought there was one other person in there that I'm just not remembering. I thought it was the 7 people that he's beaten on pay-per-view, but maybe they're including Drew McIntyre as well. Nonetheless, that's a pretty impressive stat. Very impressive stat. So, they talk about King Nakamura and how everything's been going really well for him since becoming the new king of WWE after beating Corbin for the crown a few months ago. Kevin Patrick brings that up. And they recap Nakamura becoming the Intercontinental Champion on Friday's SmackDown by beating Apollo Crews. So they interview, or Kayla Braxton does, they interview Nakamura and Boogs backstage. Nakamura says that he's happy to have become champ again and that he needed Boogs' energy to kind of get to that next level and find his groove again, his first Intercontinental Championship in a year and a half since he lost the championship to Braun Strowman back in January of 2020. They also talk about how, they ask, is the crown going to get updated again now that you're in the Intercontinental Champion? That was the question that Kayla asked Nakamura, and he just kind of shook it. He just kind of shook his head no type of thing. And then after that, Nakamura talks about wanting to compete against everyone as the Intercontinental Champion. So, kind of a short and sweet interview. Boogs did a lot of the talking, as you would probably expect. He's kind of the mouthpiece that Nakamura is always needed. And he can be very over the top sometimes, but he is very, very entertaining. But nonetheless, they move on to the next thing. They replay the Seth Rollins promo from SmackDown, addressing Edge and the match at SummerSlam, where he talked about the video package and whatever. That was great. I'm glad they replayed that because that was one of the better parts of SmackDown, I thought, on Friday. And Matt Camp brings up that both Rollins and Edge are synonymous with SummerSlam, which is true. You got to put Seth Rollins in that Mr. SummerSlam category. I mean, the guy's had banger after banger at this pay-per-view for the last 5 or 6 years. The Cena match in 2015 was great. Very good match with Finn Balor in 2016, which I think was the only SummerSlam match he's ever lost. The match with Dominic last year was very good. Dominic Mysterio. 2 years ago, the main event with Brock was great. 2018, a great match with Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental Championship. He's had a lot of great matches at SummerSlam and has a very good record of the pay-per-view to boot. Edge has had a lot of success at SummerSlam as well. Winning with Team WWE in 2010 was his final SummerSlam match, returning at SummerSlam twice in 2011 and 2019. 2009, he wasn't there, but he had a great Hell in a Cell main event with Undertaker in 2008. 2007, he wasn't there. '06, he beat John Cena in the main event to retain the WWE title in Cena's hometown of Boston. '05, he beat Matt Hardy. '04, I believe he retained the Intercontinental Championship that night against Batista and I think Chris Jericho, if I'm not mistaken, in Canada. I'm pretty sure. '03, I think he was hurt that year. '02, I think he beat Eddie. Did he not? Maybe not. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I'm pretty sure Edge was at SummerSlam '02. '01, and then 2000, and then 2000 was the big first TLC match. But yeah, Edge has had a lot of success at SummerSlam, as has Seth, so I didn't really think about that. We're all kind of focusing on the fact they have history dating back to 2014. But it is very cool they're saving this match for a SummerSlam, where both guys have a lot of great track records, which is really cool. They have a lot of wins under their belts at that specific pay-per-view. They also recap Kevin Owens versus Baron Corbin, where the stipulation was, per Kevin Owens, if Kevin Owens beat Baron Corbin can't beg anymore for money from the WWE Universe. How he's going to work around that, I'm very interested to find out, but the Corbin stuff continues to be the best thing on SmackDown right now, or one of the best things. It's hard to top Roman Reigns, but he is one of the more entertaining characters going on right now in WWE, which is great. They then interview Kevin Owens backstage, or at least Kayla Braxton does. And he makes fun of Baron Corbin's hairline, which, it's so funny, like, it's been an inside joke among fans for years now with Corbin's hair and whatnot. But it wasn't until, from what I can recall, McAfee started bringing it up on commentary every fucking week about how atrocious his hairline is, that other people have started to poke fun at it as well, including Kevin Owens. And I'm sure they're friends. I'm sure Corbin doesn't give a fuck. But it's just funny, like, all of a sudden they want you to make fun of Corbin's hairline, where for years his hair before he shaved it was not the greatest, and no one really said anything about it. None of the people he was feuding with, and maybe just because he was so new, I don't know. And he's been bald now for years, up until recently, up until this whole character started. But, yeah, I just thought it was interesting. He said that he was at a soft spot for Baron Corbin, but no longer, apparently, and it was nice beating him on SmackDown. He tells this great story that Rock actually responded to about how, not on this SmackDown, which aired on August 13th, but the day before, I believe, it marked 7 years to the day that Kevin Owens was announced as joining WWE. They announced it on Twitter, and he actually signed the contract in July, he said, but they announced it, and they made it public knowledge in August of 2014. And he talks about how, it was The Rock who responded that day, and Stone Cold congratulating him on making it to WWE. And how he did a sunset flip, and he referenced Flex Verana or something along those lines. I wasn't familiar with the joke that he was trying to make, and I guess The Rock ended up responding to it on Twitter, which was great. But yeah, it was this great story from Kevin Owens. Kayla Braxton seemed to enjoy it. He was having a great time with it. He was just the absolute best part of not only this episode of Talking Smack, but the best part of Talking Smack in general in a long fucking time. Pretty much since they took Heyman off the show a couple of months ago, because he was always a recurring highlight on these shows. And now we have Kevin Owens, who will hopefully become a staple, and I know he won't, but it would be great if they could just interview Kevin Owens and only Kevin Owens on every episode of Talking Smack, because he's just that damn entertaining. I love Kevin Owens. But anyway, so he talks about the whole sunset flip thing, and Kayla's going along with it. He also mentions, I don't even know what the hell I'm saying, because I have this Gatorade, and Liv Morgan gave it to me. I don't know what else could be inside of it, whatever. Let's go find Baron Corbin together, Kayla. And then they just kind of roll off together, which was great. Riding off into the sunset do Kayla and Kevin Owens together on this, like, trunk or whatever that Kevin Owens is pushing Kayla on, which was just a great visual. So at the very end of this episode, they recap the Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair SmackDown Women's Championship contract signing from the end of SmackDown on Friday. Matt Cam says that Sasha still has the scar from where Bianca hit her with their hair at WrestleMania 37. Now, I call bullshit on that. If that's a real thing, holy fuck. I didn't think that was a real thing. That might be a real thing. Maybe Sasha mentioned it on TV recently and I missed it. But apparently, according to... I don't know why he would say that if it wasn't true, and they haven't brought it up on TV, but I'm guessing it is true, because why else would he say that? Maybe I just missed something, but I guess Sasha still has the scar from where Bianca whipped her in the stomach back at WrestleMania 37 in their SmackDown Women's title matchup, which is kind of crazy. So they interview Bianca, and she's super pissed backstage. She just got attacked by Sasha to close the show. She's throwing shit around. And she just says, listen, come SummerSlam, Sasha, I'm going to beat you. You talk about how you're a legend. I'm going to retire you. I'm going to beat you so bad you'll want to retire, and then you'll be a legend at SummerSlam. So she was pissed. I love the aggression from Bianca. We don't see that often from her. She's usually kind of like the smiley baby face, but she plays that role really well. We got more of that intensity here from Bianca, and I thought she nailed it. That was really cool. And then at the very end here, Matt Camp just says that this is a different Bianca Belair, and maybe Sasha Banks pushed her too far. You think? But yeah, that was Talking Smack for August 14th, 2021. A very good episode by the recent studio standards. I fucking hate the studio format. Anyone who watched the show on the regular has got to agree with me. I mean, it's complete garbage. I like Kevin Patrick. Matt Camp is okay. But as far as the format of this show goes, it's not the greatest at all. It is far from the greatest. It's just bland and it's boring. The interviews are the only thing really worth watching from these episodes, and not even those most of the time are really worthwhile. The Nakamura one with Rick Boogs was fun. Kevin Owens was amazing. And the Bianca one was short, sweet, and exactly what it needed to be. So I actually thoroughly enjoyed this episode of Talking Smack for August 14, 2021. Check it out when you get a chance on Peacock. Thank you guys for checking out this review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Be sure to check out more Talking Smack reviews in the description box down below, and check out an all-new interview I'll be doing this coming week here on the channel, going into SummerSlam next weekend. You're not going to want to miss it. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.